lovely topic, actually. So, on what Artie was sharing there is one line that really jumped out at me, and it is to grow through what you go through. I thought this was really quite important, and it's I find that very appealing because I'm not the kind of person that grows through theory. I've never really learned my big lessons through theory. I mean, although I study our spiritual studies every day, so that's theory, but that theory is very practical. So I am a learning type person that rather watch how something is done and learn that way. So to grow through what you go through, I think is for me is very important. So personal growth, to me, the first word that came into my mind when I got this topic was change. And I've been reflecting on this word change because I meet lots of people that don't actually like change. They like everything to stay the same, but that's not really the case for me because in 1983, I was really quite at rock bottom in my life in terms of the things on the physical level weren't working out too good. But also my heart wasn't feeling all that happy. So I was actually looking for change. And I think I really like change. I was looking for change and I started to explore all sorts of things that I had never explored. At that time I was 30 years old, and I never explored them really until this coming up to about 28, 29, 30. I started in this time period to try and find some answers to something in my life that needed, which I don't know what it needed. I didn't know it needed healing. I didn't know it needed restructuring. I didn't know lots of things. I didn't know why, but I just knew that my heart wasn't really happy. It wasn't really happy with the way my life was at that particular time. So I was seeking change, consciously looking for something to change something in my life. And as I say, I meet lots of people now that actually don't like the word change at all. And if I mention it, then they kind of like put up the shutters that say, you're not changing, you're not having me in that game of change. So anyway, I like change. So I think that in order to grow, you have to change. Otherwise, as it says in here, that if you don't grow, then you stagnate. And I think there's a difference between stagnating and getting to a plateau, because that's another word that came up. And sometimes we reach a plateau, which means we have to just stop and regroup and rethink about things. But I feel that that's if we stay there too long, maybe that's what happens. We stay there too long, we get too comfortable and we become stagnant. And anything that's stagnant, it is not healthy, is it? I mean, if you have water that's not free flowing, then it stagnates and it gets quite smelly and it's not very useful. You can't use it for many things. And so I think that to be stagnant is not a healthy position to be in. So I think if we're going to do personal growth, we've got to respect that we have to change. I think we have to really accept and respect it, that it needs something in our life needs to change. And as I was sharing earlier, that I am lucky. I feel that I like this word change. And if nothing is changing in my life, like in my head, because that's where most of my changes is going on. Because in the Brahma Kumaris, we're here to change our personality, and that's all in your head, really. So if I can't make some shifts inside, then I make shifts on the outside. I change things round in my living environment just to bring some energy of newness in. And then the people that come and stay here, I've got a little team that we work together, and they don't live in Brighton, so they come when they come and stay, and they're always remarking that I've moved something from here to there, and so they're always they know that's how I kind of operate. But I find that quite helpful to bring about internal changes, that if I can't manage to do something on that level, then I change something on the external level. So change to me means newness, and newness to me means enthusiasm. And I find that everybody likes newness. Everybody gets very enthusiastic, even if they don't like change. They love something new. So I find that newness is a very good energy to bring in, and so we're always looking for something new to do, something new programs to create. And sometimes we've created a program in Brighton, which I think is really a very it's a very useful idea, but I think it's not the right time. I think it's a little bit futuristic. The topic we've taken up this aspect of, the topic is called dealing with life from a spiritual perspective. And I feel that's a really useful topic, and it's a series that we were running, but people didn't quite like that yet. So, but I don't feel that that's because it's a failure. I feel that it's actually that people are not really quite ready to explore things on that kind of level. So we put that one on the back burner. But the newness that's came out of that with our team, that we've thought about the topics that we've chosen to discuss in those in this series. We've got so much joy out of that, so much happiness sharing our thoughts and bouncing off each other. So this has made people grow. It's made people grow, it's made people think, it's made people go deeper into themselves, and it's also made us more authentic. And I feel that's also another lovely lovely ingredient in personal growth, is actually that we become much more authentic and much more real in our life and our expression of our life. So I've got 3 words so far: change, newness, and authenticity. So so I feel also to have personal growth, because I mean I can only measure any of this with my own life, because as I say, I'm not a textbooky type learning type person in that way. So when I look back over my life, I think what is also useful in personal growth is actually you need to have a goal. You need to have a vision or a goal, an aim. So we once a year in January, usually the very beginning of January, we create as the whole centre and all the people that are connected with the centre, we do a workshop called a workshop on creating a vision board. So we all have opportunity to have a really large piece of paper, and we all we do our vision board through using magazines. We cut out pictures and words out of magazines, and we just do it. That this is also connected with intuition. We just do it. We cut out whatever touches us, a word, a picture in a magazine, or whatever it is. We have loads of magazines, and then we stick them all over this piece of paper, and that's how we create our vision board. And then we have colored pencils, and so it's incredibly creative. And then when we've done all of that, then we look at what we've created, and then we see what that feels, what that says to us at that particular moment. But the whole idea is that it's called a vision board because it's something that is going to happen. Well, we do it once a year, so it's something that is inside us that we don't know, that we've brought to the surface and put it on this piece of paper. And I was looking at mine just the other day because I've got it on my wall. And it has over it lots of flowers, lots of vases of flowers, and not lots, actually, three. Let's not exaggerate, but we've got vases of flowers, and these are all natural flowers. And so I created that in January, and then in August, our garden is full of flowers and full of lovely flowers. And this year we've got so many lovely flowers that are growing, which is new because we didn't have them last year. But so many flowers we've got growing that we've been able to cut them and put them in vases in the house. So most of the flowers in the house now are flowers from the garden. So this is how we use the vision board, and I'm sure some of you online have done this for yourself. But I find that quite nice. It's like it has a goal. We had a goal, and then I forgot about it. I didn't even think about it. I didn't consciously think, oh, that's my goal, but I've already fixed it. And then as we've gone through the year, it's kind of that subconsciously is still inside me, and it's now manifested. So I think it's good to have a goal, and I think it's good to set a goal that's, not impossible, because I think sometimes we set our targets so high and then have such expectations and then can't fulfill them, and then we fall down and get all upset and depressed and fed up, and then get really fed up with the fact that it hasn't worked. So I think it's nice. So why I was sharing that is because it's really simple, and it's not rocket science, and you don't need a university degree to kind of make that happen. But having a goal, something that motivates us. So I think this also goes with the word goal, to keep motivated. I think we have to nowadays motivate ourselves, um, and and um, and there are lots of ways we can motivate ourselves. I think on the internet now, there's loads of people that are giving wonderful talks, as well as the Brahma Kumaris. They give very good talks anyway, and they're very practical and they're very heartfelt. But there are lots of motivational people that are incredibly positive and share really lovely things, which also can help with us to grow. Because I think if we allow newness to come in terms of information, then automatically that's going to go inside and make something move inside us, towards, growing, to become more understanding, more compassionate, more, just having so many more answers inside our heart. So I think it's very important to keep motivated. So I also suggest that, if you've reached a feeling or a place where you feel stagnant, or you've reached a place where you feel it's a plateau, then just tune in to something that's got a more positive input, and that you can gain something that will inspire you, uplift you. I mean, I do this myself. I like to listen to lots of different people sharing ideas. I don't buy into all of it, but I like to listen to it because I think it's extremely helpful. And I find some of these people really very very sincere and very useful to hold large groups of people together. That their positivity is really really quite a wonder, especially as they don't seem to be meditating, and they're not working, obviously they're not working on the level of transformation that we're working on, but they're wanting to grow. They're wanting people to know to let go of all the negativity and to really stay focused um, and see where they're going in terms of using positivity in it. So I think it's very important also to keep motivated. I mean, YouTube is really excellent, isn't it? Because you can't always find somebody that is maybe on the same wavelength as you. I find that we're quite few and far between, people that are really into spirituality and into this kind of subject of personal growth. But on YouTube, there are, people all over the world that you can just listen to, and they can inspire you and uplift you, because personal growth is very it fills you with a lot of joy, I think, when you start to hear and start to even put this into practice. I think it brings a lot of joy in life, and we need to keep that moving, because there is also, if we buy into all the sorrow that's around and all the violence that's around and all the turmoil that's around, it can make us very heavy. So I think we need to know that's going on, but I think what we need to do is to work on bringing up our own enthusiasm so that we can bring something of value to our life, but also that will be infectious for other people. So I think motivation is very good, and we used to be in the UK when Daddy Jenki was the head of the UK, the Brahma Kumaris. She was an excellent motivator. We used to do, some big idea would come, like we had a big program at the Royal Albert Hall, and the next day she said, okay, what's next? We've done that, what's next? And it was always her feeling, okay, we've done that, so what's next? What's our next project? What's the next thing? And that is also, she's very inspiring, and I think these are part of her legacy that she's left for all of us, that we don't stop, that just because we've done something that seemed to be really quite successful, we don't stop with that. We move on, and we keep going. So I think the next point I would think about is that not to be afraid if things go wrong, not to be afraid if things don't work out the way that you think they should. I think that's also quite a big one to be able to let go of, because sometimes things do, you have a plan and you've got a goal and you're motivated and you move forward, and it all goes pear-shaped. But I think what I've learned anyway is that if you can hang on in there, that it all comes out right at some point in the future. You just got to be you just got to stay positive, and you just got to trust. I think trust is also something that helps us in this personal growth, that you've got to learn to trust yourself. And even if it does go pear-shaped, it does all seem to work out really good at the end. You just have to wait for that, and but not sit around waiting for that. You just have to, this is another thing that Daddy Janky used to say, which I loved, is she used to say, wait and see. If something was not happening according to the way that it was supposed to, she used to say, just wait and see. And I find that very, very helpful because I'm quite impatient and well, I'm more patient than I used to be, but patience isn't, I haven't got 100% of patience. So I find this is that this little thought comes into my mind, and I remember Daddy and I say, just wait and see, just wait and see. And but don't sit down and wait and see. Get on with life, but just wait and see. Don't have uh, any expectations. It should be this, that, or the other. So I think this is another point in to make it, personal growth easy, is actually not to be afraid if things don't work out right the first time, because there's always something you can learn from it. So if it goes wrong, you can learn. If it goes right, you can learn. So I think that's a brilliant piece of wisdom as well. So nothing really can go wrong, even though it looks like it's gone wrong, because it does all end up going right, and it goes out and it ends up being exactly as it should be. So I think not to be afraid is a very good it's a very good factor in your personal growth. And because when you get afraid, you get disheartened, and you lose confidence in yourself and in your judgment. So I think that's a really important thing. And then also we were looking at this week in a group that I was with on Wednesday, that when you get something right, when you do something that's gone right, applaud yourself for doing something right. That's not, I'm not talking about, go around telling everybody, but I think just recognize that actually that did work out quite good. And because I feel, and this was part of our discussion on Wednesday, is that we can focus on things that don't go right and then start to really get upset or worried or beat ourselves up because it hasn't gone according to what we perceived as right. But and that can be quite a focus. But actually, there's lots of things that we do get right, and they go kind of unnoticed by ourselves. So I think this is also a very useful tool, is to applaud yourself when you do get something right, and pat yourself on the back and say well done. You don't have to say it for the rest of your life, but it's nice just to acknowledge that, because if we can acknowledge things when they don't go right, and that's good, because we do need to look at that and see where we could have done better or what we could have done differently. But also when it does work out, it's nice to to see that's also a tick in the box, that's also a plus, and that's also, you can give yourself a gold star for that as well. So the last point I've got, what I wanted to share was about this thing about being stagnant. Come back to that again, that if you feel that anything, it's got here, are there any elements in your relationships, job, or personal development that feel stagnant? If you really feel stagnant, then it's a time to change something. And I have already touched on this, but it is time to change something. And if the change is like, it would be quite a drastic change on the outside, say it's a relationship that's not working out, and to change that would be quite a massive thing to do, then find something smaller that you can change to build up a bit more confidence in yourself and your ability to be able to handle that. So if it's a job, nowadays people work in a very different way than when I went to work. I mean, now it's most people work 0 hours and they don't have any kind of security at all. So I suppose it's not such a difficult thing to change your job. I don't know, because I don't work in that world, but I know when I was at school and I was planning to leave school, it was like you look for a job that you would stay in for ages, years, and it might be the job that you stayed in for the rest of your life. Well, the world isn't like that now. So, if it's a job, then you can change it and get another one. But I think that if you start to feel stagnant, it's not healthy. It's not healthy on any level, whether you're looking at personal growth or not. I don't think it's healthy. So to come around with find something that you can change. And maybe just to share that where we're at in terms of our center and the service that we've done over the years, it was very much like everywhere. It was people meeting people and working on that level, but it's not like that now. It's, as we can see, it's all online, and you can go. I suppose you could go for quite a long time without actually speaking to a real live person. Um, but so we've been, I find I've been, we're trying to find new ways to do things that that will be to keep us in pace with what people want and where people are at, and what will be of use, practical use to people in times of difficulty, in times of change, in times of upheavals in their lives. And because I feel that that is the time period we're going through now, that people's lives are not hunky-dory and smooth, and I don't think the people are, when they say I'm all right, Jack, I don't think people live like that anymore. That behind every face there's a story, and if you spend a period of time with someone, I mean, even sometimes on the bus, I get people telling me their story, um, and it's quite amazing what people what's going on in people's lives nowadays. So I feel that I'm always trying to find something new, some new way of being able to find something that will be helpful and useful to people. So yeah, I think that's where I will pause at that point. I don't know if that's according to the time, because I've not got the timetable. But anyway, I'm going to pause at that point.
Thank you. Would you take us into a meditation, please?
Yeah, okay. So this is really where it's at, because in order to change, we need these factors that I've shared, but also we need power. We need spiritual power to make the changes that need to be made, to be helpful and useful to other people. So this spiritual power comes when we meditate. And to meditate, we need to go inside. We need to look inside. And this is where we focus on the third eye. They say the third eye is in the center of the forehead. And the third eye is the eye of intuition, but it's also the eye of being able to look at yourself. And so when we meditate, we take our thoughts and we take them inwards. And it's quite an interesting technique we have, that we keep our eyes open and we turn our thoughts within. So we are opening the third eye, because our two eyes are looking out, but our third eye is enabling us to go inside. And what's inside us is such immense beauty. the beauty of love, the beauty of peace, the beauty of joy. This is what's inside us. So the key to get from outside to inside is quietness. So we need to sit still and we need to withdraw. And our focus of attention is the center of the forehead. This is where I think from. This is where my mind resides, very closely connected with my brain, which is part of the physical. So I take my energy inside. And if you find it easier, close your eyes. Most meditations are done with eyes closed, and I personally don't think it makes much difference, but it's very practical to keep your eyes open. But if you wish to close your eyes, then take your mind within and observe the thoughts that are passing through the mind. Maybe you can observe the speed of the thoughts. Maybe the thoughts look like they're jumping from one direction to another. But by holding your attention inside, you're gradually reining the thoughts in so they become slow. And spaces start to appear between the sentences and then the words. And there is a deep feeling of stillness. It's like the words are passing across the bottom of the screen of my mind, but I am silently in the space of stillness, observing them. This is very useful to bring your mind to this particular place. Because the stiller my mind is, the more the power of peace, the power of love, and the power of joy that's latent inside emerges. And I start to feel this. I start to feel the power and the strength of these energies. And these energies in turn have an effect on my mind. And I observe and I feel an inner strength that if I practice this enough, I'll be able to tell my mind what thoughts I want them to think. And I'll be able to create thoughts that are positive and uplifting and empowering. Because these quality of thoughts are much slower. So this place of stillness is a place of safety. And in this place of stillness, I expose my heart and my mind to God. The language that God speaks is silence. So I have to reach this place of stillness and come into that silence so that we're both on the same wavelength. This is where powerful thoughts can come into my mind. Thoughts that enable me to grow. It's like sunshine mixed with rain that enables the plant to grow and flourish. This gives courage to the soul and to grow and to change. We need courage. And then we need to trust. We need to learn to trust ourselves, to trust God, to trust all events that happen in our life, the drama of life. And this will bring strength and power to the soul. Then every action you perform, every word that you speak will be beneficial and uplifting for all. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Linda. That was very beautiful. Took me on a journey for sure, so thank you. A few questions have already started to come in, so let me just pull them up. This one came in really early into your talk, so I'm sure you've covered parts of it, but maybe you could explore a little more with us. How do we know what's best for us? How do we discover our mission? What happens if our intuition is clouded and obscures our path?
Wow, there's about 8 questions in one there. I'll start with the last one, clouded and obscured. I think that this is where meditation comes in. That regular practice of meditation, especially the meditation we are practicing, is connected with the mind, that we need to slow our thoughts down. We live in a world where there's so much stimulation, and this speeds the thoughts up, which is actually, you can feel this like adrenaline is pumped through the body. You can feel it, and you can feel when the thoughts start to speed up, because then there's a loss of clarity. There's no clearness in our vision. Our mind is jumping from one thing to the next thing to the next, and then this creates more questions. For me, stillness is absolutely essential. And this is another thing I've been working on for a long time, that the key to success is the mind, to master the mind. And I haven't mastered it totally, but my thoughts are much slower. And so because my thoughts are much slower, I can see things with more clarity. And and I get touchings where that clarity then expands again, and then it expands again. So I know that I'm not to the end of it, but it is just so insightful to be able to see things much clearer. So I think that maybe that's the answer to all of those parts of that question. Is that when there is this clarity inside, when there is this stillness, it doesn't mean that, you know, you're thinking like this. It's not that like that. I mean, the thoughts are passing quite normally, as I mean, maybe at the same speed as what my mouth is speaking. That's the speed of thoughts, but then they're not scattered all over the place. And so this is the discipline of our meditation is to keep bringing ourselves back to these two words, Om Shanti. I am a being of peace, and to sit in that space of peace and then come into action. It's like they're little tiny breaths that we're taking to be able to bring the mind back to some degree of stillness. Because when it's scattered all over the place, when you can feel this in people's energy. When someone is really quite still inside, you can feel their energy. And just as I can feel people's thinking, I can't read their mind, but I can feel their thinking. And, like when somebody gets angry, you can feel that anger. But when people think too much and their mind is scattered all over the place, then this gives off an energy, and it's like it's shaking and wobbling all over the place, because the mind is not got it's lost. You've lost control of your own mind, and therefore it's just running all over the place. So this stillness, I think, maybe is the key, because if you've got that stillness, you've got that clarity, then other things start to come in. You start to get more observant of things that are connected with your life, your destination, your growth. It's helping you in that aspect to grow in the direction that actually is your potential. That's where you can reach your highest. But it doesn't mean that you've got to see some kind of picture of some superstar that well, that might be your aim and objective, but for most people that's not. But just little things. That's why I was sharing with the vision board. It's like you've got to trust that there's stuff inside you that you can only access really when you're in that space of stillness. It comes up and it surfaces when you're in that space of stillness. So I hope that's answers some of the question anyway.
Yes, it does. I think it does, but I'll read you the other two parts of the question. How do we know what's best for us? Was one. And the other is, how do we discover our mission?
Well, I think the mission is connected with all the events that happen in your life. I mean, your mission. I mean, I always used to think that there must be some reason to be on this planet, that there must be some purpose. And I couldn't say that I could describe what my mission is. So, but I think I'm working towards it because as I work in this way and I move towards this, then I become happier. I become more clear. I become more strong. I become more decisive. I become more positive. So I think this helps us to move towards whatever is our destiny, and especially if we bring God into it as well, this helps to speed up the process. And I feel that for me anyway, God has a clearer vision of my purpose of life than I do. I just keep moving in that direction, and eventually it will unfold. And what was the other part of the question?
How do we know what's good for us?
How do we know what's good for us? Well, this is again intuition, isn't it? You must know what's it's like what's bad for you. I think you must have some intuition that tells you what's good for you. I mean, if you drink a cup of bleach, it's bad for you. You'll be sick, you'll be ill. So I think, you drink water and this makes you healthy and happy. So I think if you measure it with how you're feeling, then because that could be anything, couldn't it? What's good for you. I mean, if you drink too much alcohol, then you get drunk, and that's not good for you. So I think we have to, use our third eye a little bit on that aspect, maybe.
Thank you. The next question is, how can I move forward when I'm ill or I have ill health and can't do the things that I want to do? Do you have any advice?
Mm. The illness is a very big thing. It's very, very big thing because that pulls your mind completely towards the body. But there are lots of things that you can do. I mean, it depends on what you set as your goals. What comes to my mind is that a friend of mine's father, he passed away this year, but he was always grumpy, and because he couldn't do the things he wanted to do, he had ill health and he was always grumpy. And then about about 2 or 3 weeks before he left, he had a whole change of heart, and he became really very soft and very gentle, and very giving and very sincere. And everyone that came to see him, that came into his presence, he had a gift for them to share from his heart. And I remember the last time I saw him, and I went in to see him, and he was in bed, and I stood and held his hand, and I was standing there holding his hand, and he was talking away to me in a really sweet way, and we were talking about this, that, and the other. And then I said to him after about half an hour, "Do you think I could sit down now?" Because I was standing there holding his hand. And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He said, "I didn't even think about your standing up and I'm laying down." He said, "I don't know what's happened," he said, "but something has changed inside me. And I just feel so loving. I feel so much love." and I feel really, really contented. And that's what came across. And every person that came to see him was really touched by that. They really got touched by their heart was touched by his what he was giving. So he couldn't give anything on the physical level, but what he could give was on the spiritual level. He could give something from his heart. So I think sometimes when we can't do things, and that's why we're in a body to do things, sometimes when we can't do things, we get quite frustrated. But there's always something we can do. And if we try to focus on that, then I think that helps us through the times when we can't do things. I mean, ill health it can be many things. I don't know exactly what it is. But I know when I broke my leg and I broke my leg and I obviously couldn't walk. And I was in a wheelchair for two weeks because I wasn't allowed to stand and anyway, I couldn't walk. So, but I learned lots of things and it was really humbling. I thought, gosh, here I am walking around and taking absolutely everything for granted. And then I was plonked into a wheelchair and I thought, gosh, some people have to live their lives in this. And it's so I learned to become much more humble. And I think that's what we can do. What we can do is to really start looking at what's inside and what I can give to situations from what's within me. And you'll find that will be so much appreciated if you share from that perspective. People will then open their hearts to you, and you will find that there's a different way that you can deliver things even though your body isn't that well. I'm Shanti.
Thank you. Couple more questions. Let's see how many we can fit in. The next question is, do you have experience of changing unhelpful habits? Could you share a bit more on how to do it and create willpower needed? I get disappointed and disheartened with myself when I mess up.
Mm. Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, isn't it? That I've looked at this quite a lot actually. When I first came to the Brahma Kumaris, I gave up quite a lot of things that were bad habits extremely easy without any hardship at all, and I just didn't do them anymore. And yet there are other habits that I have I still have all these years later. So there is it is quite something to actually bring about some changes within you. But I feel that that what I've learned is that if it's like this thing I was talking about with mistakes, that if I do muck up or mess up at some point, I just detach from that and I don't go into any sorrow. But when it's calmed down, I reflect and see how I could perhaps have done that a little bit better. And I think over the years, some of these big habits are getting a lot less than they were. But some habits you can change quite instantly and quite easily, if you're motivated to, and then other ones take a lot longer. But I think this getting upset because you've done it again, I think this is a big thing that you can get free of that. That it's not to be afraid of it, not to be afraid if something doesn't, if you mess up. So then you go back to the drawing board and then you can look at it and then what can you learn at this moment in time that will be helpful for the next time that comes up. And then eventually, that I was listening to a gardening program the other day and they were talking about weeds and how weeds, the question was, I keep getting these weeds coming up on my drive, coming between the bricks on the drive. What can I do about it? Because I can't, I don't want to spray it with any poison. And the gardener said, you just have to keep pulling them out. You just have to keep pulling them out. And every time you pull them out, it makes the roots weaker. So eventually you keep pulling them out and then they will die. And I think this is the same with habits. We just keep on, we just keep on being aware that this is what I don't want to do. And if it does come up and I do it, then okay, I'm not going to take sorrow from that. I'm going to, if, whatever you have to do to rectify that on the physical level. But let me just assess that in a detached way and see what I can learn from that and what I could have done differently, or I learn something from it so that the next time I'm a bit more prepared. And then I feel that eventually they get lesser and lesser and lesser, and then they disappear. But I think it's also connected with this thing that when you do get things right, you need to also acknowledge that and not just keep acknowledging that you've done something wrong, because there's such a tendency nowadays to get so upset about doing things wrong and not getting them perfect. So that would be my thoughts on that. And it's still work in progress.
I love it. I love this idea. It's just pulling up a root. That's all. And to keep that in mind, because it doesn't feel like a huge thing. You're not having to dig it out. It's just something you do as you pass along almost.
Mm.
Um, that is such a clear idea to follow through on. So thank you. It brings us to the end of our event. Thank you so much, everyone, for the questions you've sent in. Linda, it's been an absolute delight to have you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you. Very nice.
We look forward to having you back, definitely. So thank you.